It's time to live your stronger life. Hey, I'm Sammy, physio coach and nutritionist, and your hype girl for creating your stronger life. Here, we ditch the quick fixes and build real strength inside and out. So whether you're here to tone up, drop the body fat, build muscle, mental resilience, or ditch the diet culture, or just feel bloody good in your skin, you're in the right place. So let's get into it. Hey fam, welcome back. Hope you've all had an amazing day so far. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about how do you actually get the most out of your training sessions, because just going to the gym and just moving the bod and going through the motions is not enough if you actually want to tone up, build muscle, and get stronger and really change your physique. So in this episode, I'm going to break down the key principles that are going to help you level up your training intensity, efficiency, and results, regardless of whether you're in a fat loss phase, building muscle phase, anything like that. We always want to be training to try and build muscle and get stronger. So a few little bits and bobs that I'm going to be covering is like reps in reserve and what training hard actually really means, warming up sets versus working sets, why full range of motion and the stretch matters, how to apply progressive overload properly, tempo, control, and intentional movement, and the power of filming your sets for feedback. So stop worrying about what other people are thinking and film your sets. Anyways, let's jump into it. So step 1, reps in reserve. What the hell does that mean? Reps in reserve mean how many reps do you have left in the tank before you are going to reach absolute failure. Now, what is failure? Failure can either be physical or technical. So a physical failure would be like if you're doing a shoulder press and you go to lift the weight up above your head and you literally can't complete the rep. That would be physical failure. And then technical failure would be as if, let's say you're doing a bicep curl and you start jumping up and down in order to get the bicep curl completed. That would be technical failure. And so reps in reserve refers to how many repetitions do you have left in the tank before you reach physical or technical failure. Now, we really want to be working within 1 to 3 reps of failure or 1 to 3 reps in reserve for the best results when it comes to building muscle. Why not go to absolute failure? Well, there is some research that going within 1 rep of failure and 0 reps of failure doesn't give you any more hypertrophy or muscle building benefit, but the fatigue and the recoverability from going to absolute failure compared to leaving 1 rep in the tank is significant. So it's a lot easier to recover when you are leaving 1 rep in the tank and you're still going to get the same amount of growth, but you're going to be able to continue training. So that's why it's recommended to, we say 1 to 3 reps, but realistically, most people don't even know how to train to absolute failure anyways. So I just say train to failure. They're probably going to finish within 1 to 3 reps naturally anyways, because more often than not, you think that you're finished at that 1 rep range, and I reckon you've got a lot more in the tank if someone was there screaming in your ear, pushing you further. And so when you're lifting, if you think you're finished and then someone's like, keep going, and you end up doing like 6 or 7 more reps, then that wasn't a working set. That was a warm-up set and you should go heavier. You really, really want to be working within 1 to 3 reps away from failure in order to actually build quality muscle and continue to get stronger. Now, it doesn't mean you're feeling the burn, because feeling the burn is something completely different. I'm talking physical or technical failure. Now, why does this matter? Because mechanical tension is the biggest driver for muscle growth and adaptation. You need to challenge the muscle in order to grow it, and that's why we do progressive overload, which I'm going to talk about shortly. But we first of all need to learn how to actually train hard and effectively, and so many people have absolutely no idea how to train hard, and they always are just like, oh, it's feeling a bit hard, I feel a bit of a burn, I'm just going to stop now, which is just silly. And leaving so much potential for gains on the table. So don't leave all of that on the table. Learn how to actually train hard and go within 1 to 3 reps of failure. All right, number 2, warm-up sets versus working sets, knowing the difference. You want to prime your body and your nervous system before jumping straight into your working sets. But there is a difference between like warming up, like just literally getting warm, and warming up as in priming your body for your exercises. So I really recommend that you do warm-up sets. So let's say, for example, you are going to do a barbell squat. Maybe you're going to do warm-up set 1 is an empty barbell for 8 to 10 reps to really get the body moving, get the joints moving, and just get a good concept of the actual movement pattern that you are going to be performing. So this is all about nailing the technique of the back squat, and also just getting your joints warmed up and used to the full range of motion. So you might do a little bit more repetitions on that first one. And then you can add a little bit of weight, and you might just do, 2 or 3 repetitions at that weight. Then you can add a little bit of weight, do another 2 or 3 reps. And then you might add a little bit of weight. It really depends on how heavy you need to go, of course. And then you might just do 1 rep. And then you might build yourself up to your working weight. And you may only need to do this 1 to 2 times. You don't have to do it that many times. But once you get to your working weight, you might just do 1 repetition as a bit of a nervous system primer. Because now what you've done is you've sent signals from your nervous system to your muscles to go, hey, we need to recruit these motor units in order to lift this weight that we're about to do for 8, 10, 12 repetitions. So you're priming your nervous system to know, all right, this is what we need to lift and this is what we need to do, guys. Let's get ready to rock and roll. And that primer repetition can make your working sets so much more effective. It's kind of like this idea of, if I said go pick that kettle up and you knew that that kettle was empty, you're going to go and lift it with a less intensity than if you knew that the kettle was full. Now, what if you thought the kettle was full, but it was actually empty? Have you ever had that sort of experience where you go to lift something you think is going to be heavy, but it's actually really light and you're like, whoa, oh, that was a bit easier than I thought. Well, but flip it in reverse. That's why we do a primer set. So then your body doesn't have that, oh God, that was hard. So doing that primer set and the warm-up sets of the exercise you're going to do as you're building it up is super duper effective at making your working sets more effective. Now, you only really need to do 1 or 2, maybe 3, depending on how heavy you have to lift. Depends on how many times you're going to do those warm-up sets. And we only want to do a couple of reps, 2 or 3, 1 or even 1 to 3 repetitions at those warm-up weights, because we don't want to build so much fatigue that by the time you do your working sets, you can't perform properly either. So that is another factor that you do need to consider in as well. So yeah, don't waste too much time and energy doing tons and tons of warm-up sets with lots and lots of repetitions. Just do a couple to really prime your nervous system so that you are ready to rock and roll. And we don't count our warm-ups in our training volume, right? So if you, for example, had 3 sets of 8 repetitions to do, you're not going to do warm-up set 1 as set 1 and then, add a bit of weight, do another set as set 2, and then you reach your working weight in set 3 and then push hard in set 3. All you've done is done 2 warm-up sets and 1 working set, and you still got 2 more working sets to go, and that's wasting your time and, again, your growth potential. So do your little warm-up sets, really prime your nervous system, and then go hard on whatever number of working sets you have. They are 2 completely separate things that you need to take note of. All right, next one, full range of motion and reps in the stretched position. So first of all, full range of motion is always going to be better for function and for your joints and just for overall muscle growth and hypertrophy. In my opinion, full range of motion is always better. But you can even stimulate more muscle growth and get even more bang for your buck by really prioritizing the stretched position or the lengthened position and making sure you're putting tension on that muscle in the stretched or lengthened position. So an example of that is having a little mini pause in your bottom of your squat or in the bottom of a hip thrust, pause for a slight moment, but being active in that paused position. If you are doing a hamstring curl, let's say if you're doing a seated hamstring curl, you keep tension on your hamstrings, but you have your knees nearly straight and you pause there and then you go. If you're doing a lat pull down, it's a slight stretch at the top, but again, staying active, not relaxing, but staying active up the top, giving it a bit of a stretch, and then you go again. Leg extensions, where your knees are bent underneath, getting a really nice juicy stretch on and more knee flexion before you move. That's going to also be another way to prioritize the stretched position. A muscle that grows really well in the stretched position is calves. So if there's even evidence to show that if you just did the bottom half of a calf raise in that stretched position, it actually grows more effectively than full range and definitely more than the shortened range. So that's why doing the lengthened partials, like partial reps in your stretched position after you've completed full range of motion, repetitions can be a really beautiful way to add extra stimulus and extra growth potential in those muscles as well. That's like a nice little extra ninja trick, but I digress a little bit. When we're using full range of motion, we're going to be recruiting all our muscle fibers. We're going to be improving our mobility. That's the biggest thing. You're going to be improving your mobility. You can stretch all the hell you want. If you want to improve your mobility, lift heavy through full range of motion. And then you can add the lengthened partials and like really emphasis on the stretched position to get an extra bang for your buck for muscle growth. So if your ego is making you want to lift heavier and heavier, but now you can't do full range of motion, anyone on the leg press, I see it way too often. Leg press and lunges, they're probably the worst. And shoulder press, I do find people do short range of motion on that as well because of their ego, and they won't go a little bit lighter, so then you can actually go through the full range of motion. So quickly to summarize that, full range of motion is great for your mobility, for your joint health, because when you do full depth and you push the joints, you really strengthen them in those really compressed positions, the stretch positions, it's really good for them. So good joint health, good mobility, you're actually going to get more effective results to build strength and also train your muscles in all the different angles and also just get better overall growth. But if you want to take it to the next level, really bias the stretched position, adding resistance in that stretched position, the lengthened position, and doing lengthened partials will really take your growth to the next level, which is always super fun, and that is what we're here for. Okay, next up we are going to talk about progressive overload. You always hear it all the time, but like, what does it really mean? And it doesn't just mean lifting heavier and heavier and heavier, because that can lead to, hitting a wall, burning out, injuring yourself, or really crappy form. So here's how you do progressive overload first. Okay, first of all, why do we do it? It's because your body does adapt to whatever stressor you put on it. Your body adapts. Think about at school, right? You go to school and you start in year 1 or kindergarten, you start in year 1, you learn stuff, and then you go to year 2, and that makes it a little bit harder all the way up through to your final years at school. And each year you develop new education, new knowledge, and what you learnt the year before, it becomes easy. So then you learn something new to make it a little bit harder, and that's how you learn, right? Well, that is exactly the same as lifting in the gym. You get really good at the exercise that you're currently doing, the weight that you're doing, the reps that you're doing. So then you need to progress. Otherwise, you're not going to get any stronger and you're not going to continue to build muscle. So that's why we do progressive overload, right? So the first recommendation I have is to nail your repetitions. So let's say if your target is 8 to 10 reps, first of all, don't increase the weight until you can confidently hit 10 reps with really beautiful form. Once you're doing that, then you would gradually increase the load. For smaller exercises, you may only add 1 to 2 kilos at a time. For bigger like movement exercises like squats, leg press and stuff like that, you might add 5 to 10 kilos at a time. But even a 1 kilo progression is still really epic. And some exercises, you're just like literally never going to be able to add weight, aka lateral raises. It takes you bloody forever to add any weight with lateral raises. But this is why, because the relative jump, like if you're doing it with dumbbells, generally speaking, you've got a 5 kilo dumbbell and then you've got 7.5 kilo dumbbell. That is a huge leap. 5 to 7.5, that is adding an extra 50% on to that weight, right? Like, so it's a big leap up. If you were to do that in the equivalent with doing squats or something, like you're not going to suddenly go from a 100 kilo squat to a 150 kilo squat. That is massive. You would go 100 kilo squat to 105 kilo squat. Like, it's a very small jump. But the equivalent to that in lateral raises is like 200 grams or something. I haven't done the math off the top. This is all off the top of my head, so I apologize if I just did wrong math, but you get the idea. But there's no dumbbells out there that are like 520 grams, 540 grams. So that's why it feels impossible to progress in weight when you're doing little exercises like a lateral raise. So in that case, we do just keep going up and up in repetitions and in tempo, pausing in the stretch position. Can we make gravity impact you more, changing the angle so it's harder on the muscles because of gravity, or holding in the top position to make it a little bit more challenging to pre-fatigue your muscles. So there's other strategies that we can do to add progressive overload when you're not able to jump up in weight as well. Range of motion, tempo, the impact of gravity, there's some different suggestions as well. But basically, so you go up in your reps, you go, maybe in week 1, you do 8 reps, in week 2, you do 9 reps, in week 3, you're able to do 10 reps, and you're like, right, let's go, we're going to add weight next week. But now you add the weight, and you can only do 8 reps again. That's okay. Then you're going to start at 8 reps, and then you're going to build up to the 9, and then the 10, and then when you're smashing 10 reps again, guess what? you're going to go heavier. And so you just gradually rotate between increasing repetitions, then increasing the weight, increasing repetitions, increasing the weight, and sprinkling in those other techniques I mentioned before. And that is how you're going to continue to get progressive overload. Now, how do you know when to do all of that? It's because you're going to track your training sessions. You're going to have a structured training program, and you're actually going to track your exercises. You're going to track your reps and track your weights. You're going to stop winging it, because every time you wing it, you have no idea where to get started from. And this is really, really why you're not getting gains. Like you're really limiting your progress if you do not have a structured training program, so you can actually monitor your progress and make sure you're progressing over time. Don't rely on your memory. Use an app, use an Excel spreadsheet, use something that can actually help you, so then you know exactly what you did last week and you know what your targets are for the following week. And then it makes it more fun too, because then it's like, all right, it's a game. Last week I did 9 reps. This set, I'm doing 10. Let's go. And you get in there, and when you're doing the exercise, you're like 8, 9. All right, come on, one more. You got this. And then you do it. And then you're like, yes. So, it makes it more fun as well. So it's all about consistently challenging your body and your muscles over time. So yeah, it's not like your muscles are like, oh, well, last week you did 9 reps and this week you only did 8. Like, it's not also that, but if we have a structure to it, we can make sure that we're progressing, and your muscles only recognize the consistent challenge over time. So it's a combination of, like, it's necessary to make sure we're doing it, but also your muscles just need that increased stimulus. So it's a balancing act anyways. So next one is tempo. So that control, you've probably heard it before. If you have me on Instagram, you know what I'm going to say. You are in control of the weight. The weight is not in control of you. That is so, so important. So slow it down, sis. Basically, the best way to think about tempo is like, so when you're releasing the weight, such as if you did a lat pull down and your arms are coming back up, if you just did a shoulder press and you're bringing your arms back down, if you're lowering down into a squat, those elements, they're the lowering phase, or the eccentric phase. And a nice way I always thought about it when I was at uni was like, eccentric is like slow and long. Sorry if that just hurt your eardrums. And then the concentric phase, which is short and concentric, is the short and powerful, the push phase, or the pull, like the fast movement part where you need to be powerful. So for example, in a squat, the eccentric phase is where you're lowering down, and you want to lower down with control. You're not dropping down into the squat, you're lowering down with control. Maybe you're going to give yourself a sneaky little pause in the bottom position, an active pause. You're not sitting in it, you're just active. And then you're going to come up as fast as you can. And then you're going to deep breath in, brace and breathe, and then you're going to lower down with control, and then you're going to power back up out of the squat. And that's the kind of action that you want to take in all of your exercises. Slow, controlled, eccentric. It doesn't have to be like 10 seconds long of like 10, 9, blah, blah, blah. That's a waste of time. You don't want to go too slow on the eccentric, but you do want to be in control. And there is evidence to show, I think off the top of my head, it's like between 2 and like 8 seconds for a repetition for eccentric, but I think 8 seconds I think is a bit long. I think it's 5 or 6 seconds, to be honest, but like anywhere between like 2 to 6 seconds, say, on the eccentric phase is still super duper effective for muscle growth. And anything after that, then you're just going too slow, that you're not going to be able to be as powerful in the concentric phase or the shorter phase. So something around that kind of range is a good idea. But why do we want to have a bit of control? Well, we want to eliminate momentum, unless you're doing CrossFit or something like that. But if you're trying to build muscle, you want to eliminate momentum. It's going to reduce your risk of injury. It's going to increase the stress on your muscles, which is good for muscle growth. And it does also help with that mind-muscle connection. It makes you more aware of your movement patterns as well. So really slow down and be really intentional and aware of what you're doing. Like if you're on a leg extension machine and you're just flopping up and down on your phone, then just get off and go home, because you're wasting your time. So that's the next one, is tempo, and be intentional with it. Be aware of what you're doing. And that's definitely going to give you way, way better results as well. So we don't want to rush through the reps just to tick the box. We want to make every rep count, make it intentional, feel the muscle, own the movement, and just be really in control of that weight. Another really good technique is to film your sets, because then you can actually see how you're going. You think you're slow, and then you look at it and you're like, dang, I rushed through that. Or if you think, oh man, I definitely failed that last rep, like no way I could have done any more. And then you film your set and you look back at it, and if your first rep, the speed of your first rep is the same as the speed of your last rep, then you did not push hard enough, because those last couple of reps, the tempo should slow down the concentric phase should slow down because you're grinding it out. You don't have as much power left in you in those last couple of sets. So filming yourself, you can look back and you can look at it and you're like, yep, my last reps, they look too easy. I definitely could have gone harder. So that's one reason why filming your sets can be really fantastic. It gives you that instant feedback and awareness of things that you don't realize. And also in some exercises, it's not safe to look at yourself in the mirror. Like, stop looking to the side when you're doing your Romanian deadlifts, because that's twisting your neck, which is also twisting your spine, which is making it really, really challenging to brace your core. And then you wonder why you get a sore back. Like, okay, so keep your head neutral, film yourself, look at the sets afterwards. And then if you have an amazing coach, aka like me, you can send the videos to me, and then I also review your technique to make sure everything looks really beautiful as well. And you know, people don't mind if you're doing it to improve your technique. You're not being a flop about it. Like, if people walk in the middle of your camera, who cares? You just like, it's fine, guys, I just need a couple of reps to check how my form looks. Like, who cares? You're not there to be an influencer. You're there to make sure you're moving beautifully. You're not the reason why tripods and whatnot get banned from gyms. It's all the people who will get angry at people for walking in the middle of their camera, which is absolutely stupid, because yes, you're being an inconvenience by filming, but it is also, I think, very beneficial for like your safety, and also just to make sure you can improve in your technique as well. So I would always try and do it as much as you can as well. So final thoughts: train with intention, not just moving. You're not just there to do the reps. You're there to actually get results and to progress and to perform. But think of yourself as an athlete, not just someone doing the reps, doing the work, getting in, getting out, and go home, because you're just wasting your time if you really want to get stronger and build muscle and get results. So it's not just about going harder. It's also about training smarter at the same time. So quick recap: we want to push till failure, ideally within 1 to 3 reps in reserve, or even 1 to 2 really. You want to do warm-up sets, not just your working sets, and also your warm-up sets are not your working sets. Use full range of motion, but also don't forget about that stretched position. Utilize that to really get that sneaky extra level of muscle growth. Progress with your reps, progress with your weight, tempo, be in control of the weight. You are in control of the weight. The weight is not in control of you. And don't be afraid to film. And so you can always refine your technique along the way. Have a training program to follow and a structure so you can actually make sure you're progressing, and stop guesstimating and just training how you feel when you turn up. And most importantly, show up consistently. Yeah, you could have the most perfect training program, but if you're only going once a week, you're just wasting it. You need to be going and ideally hitting each muscle group at least twice a week in order to get really effective training results. And then on the flip side of that, which I won't dive into right now, but you better get your nutrition on check too, girl, because you can have the most amazing training program in the world. You can be super consistent in the gym, but if your nutrition sucks, you will also not get results in the same vice. So fam, I hope that was helpful so that you have some strategies you can take away to improve in your training and get the most out of your training sessions, so that we're not just showing up and jumping on the cardio and then flip-flopping on a few different weights machines and just hoping for the best. Because if that is you, this is why your glutes aren't growing, this is why you're not toning up, and this is why you're not getting any stronger and seeing results. Thanks so much for listening. If you found this episode valuable, please rate, review, and subscribe. And I'd love if you shared this on your Instagram and tag me, Sammy_livestrong. And if you'd like to learn more about my coaching and join the Project Livestrong family, please message me, Livestrong, on Instagram, and I'll see how I can help. I'll see you next time.